What's up, friends? Tell me if you can hear me. I've got a lav mic going on right here. Let me know if you're hearing me and if it sounds good. Just a couple quick thoughts, 5 minutes here before bedtime. By the way, again, if you're just joining me, please let me know how this mic sounds. Quick thoughts to wrap up Gilbert Burns versus Tyron Woodley. Couple things. Very quickly, the internet, this is 10 minutes after it's done, the internet will be full of people saying, oh, Woodley needs to retire, Woodley needs to retire. One thing you need to know, hey, how's it sound? Different mic. Oh, I just finished work, that's why I'm looking so dapper. One thing you need to know when you write, when you type or express the idea, this guy needs to retire, the athlete, when athletes see that, and not just Woodley say, but any athlete sees that, what they're seeing you say is, I'm the kind of person, when things get difficult, I quit, right? And it's not really about, we're not in a position to judge what Woodley should or shouldn't do, and failure is a part of a road to success. So setbacks, hesitation, when you look at it, and I'm not just making stuff up. I've been writing a book with a professor of psychology, and I work very closely with some combat sports consultants, consultants, and there's a lot of development when there's something not right. The reason it continues is because the person denies it, or they have so much will, which is why they've been successful to a certain point, was they had the will to push till they're successful. Then when failure starts to happen, or setbacks, or there's some problem in their process, that will, next time it'll be different, next time it'll be different, and they don't take on the intentional humility enough to then say, hey, I am doing something incorrect. I need to start fresh. I need to admit it's there. I need to admit it's real. Not deny it, not put it away, not pretend it never happened or isn't happening. But this is happening. This is a problem. What do I do about it? And that's very common. The will that it took to become a champion is the same will that is preventing somebody from saying, wait, my process is flawed today, and I need to admit it and then change many, many things. You can't change things unless you look and say, I'm doing something wrong. So that's common, and it's not with judgment. I'm not judging. I'm saying this guy's making a mistake. Doesn't have humility. This is a very common thing. It's the same thing that happens with people who develop writer's block. They deny it, so they put it off, and the next thing you know, you have writer's block. It's a very similar thing, right? And it's high performers. It happens with high performers. It happens with people who suddenly lose their voice, or singers, or talkers, or it's real. It's real, and you must address it. And by being willful enough to be successful, sometimes you're willful enough to just, next time it'll be different. I got this. Don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about it. So that's common. So the answer isn't quit. You can always quit. That's the great thing about quitting. It's always there. The choice is always there. But the greats don't quit when it gets hard. The only way you get to being great is by failing many, many times and continuing. All right? So enough about that. Let's talk about Gilbert Burns. Why was Gilbert Burns so successful? A number of reasons. He was free in fighting, his skills. That this is a real guy. He's been competing at a super high level. As a world champion Jiu-Jitsu player, and I want to talk about that in a little bit too, how the trained mind of the Jiu-Jitsu player develops different than a wrestler or a boxer, etc. All these things are blending together now with the young martial artists, but as people come up in the old way, and it is the old way now. Oh, he was a Jiu-Jitsu guy who learned MMA, or he was a wrestler who became an MMA fighter. Excuse me, I was dressed for work. I was just doing Sports Center, which is super fun. But yeah, so the mind, and this won't be the case eventually. We will, everybody's will be blended with all of the thinking, but the way that the Jiu-Jitsu mind works is in a problem-solving way. It shapes the neurons of the brain in a particular way, and so it makes a guy a little different. And really what's fighting is two trained nervous systems manipulating each other, expressed through physicality. And strategically speaking, if there's a possibility your opponent, and that's why there's a push-pull to dynamic. There's a possibility that your opponent may have hesitation, may have a little bit of self-sabotage through whatever mechanisms that's been going on for the last few years, especially if they haven't dealt with it or admitted it. And I'll reference that again in a minute. What should you do? Start fast. Start with pressure. Get on him. Don't let him get comfortable. You know, if he has any doubts, let's get those in his head right away. Right? So very smart. Very, very smart. Burns, you know, not just skillful, not just, you know, intense or heavy, powerful, or, you know, really smart, really intelligent. Make this guy, bring him back to those last moments where he couldn't perform, make him feel, you know, remind him that he's been focusing on the wrong things. And again, I don't want to touch on the guy who's not quite in the zone right now, but it's part of it. You know, Gilbert Burns, aware of that. You know, you don't want to rely on it, because if Woodley's the best he's ever been tonight, you still want to be capable of winning. So, but if we can gain that advantage, we'll pressure him early, and we'll see if we can put those doubts in there early, remind him, get him sitting there going, why is this happening again? We want that, right? That's what we want if we're Gilbert Burns and his guys. So, and he's just a little different. He performs a little different, his rhythm's a little different, and that difference comes from that root. And again, that root is not going to be there. Sugar Sean or some of these guys, they don't think like a wrestler turned fighter or a jiu-jitsu guy turned fighter or a Muay Thai fighter turned MMA fighter. They're all just free-form martial artists. But in these old school guys, and Woodley is an old school guy, he's 39 years old. He make him feel like a wrestler who's uncomfortable in a fight. And, you know, and this is a piece of evidence, something to watch for. Not just in these fighters, but in life, and in ourselves. When you saw him coming up, and again, when you see clips of people, you only get little brief moments, so you don't know how they've been living the other 23 hours and 51 minutes of the day. But you see a guy when he's talking, and he's talking about, I accomplished this, I beat that guy, I won that, I was the champion. He's talking about outcomes, right? Doesn't mean that's all he's focused on, but it's evidence that these are the things he's thinking of. These are the way he's motivating himself and reminding himself, I'm capable of winning. I'm capable of knocking guys out. I'm capable of taking guys out in the first round, giving guys their, you know, the unbeaten streak guys, putting them. Those are all consequences. What are they consequences of? Good performances. What are good performances consequences of? Proper work, proper preparation, proper mental strategy. You know, put it all together so you perform well. If you perform well, then maybe the outcome's good. But you don't control outcomes. You don't control winning. You don't control knocking guys out. You don't control being the champion. You control your preparation, your study, and how you walk in there, how you think about it, how you mentally prepare for it, and then you control to some degree. That allows you to control your performance. And if you control your performance and it's very good, you may get the consequences you want. That's what Gilbert Burns did tonight. Gilbert Burns did all that. Tyron Woodley did not do all that. Really, the fight, and this is what I find the most interesting and useful in figuring out how to make next year better than last year, is what we see tonight. We can judge or point fingers, or Woodley failed this way, Gilbert Burns was awesome this way. None of this that happened tonight really is a direct consequence of tonight. It's a direct consequence of the days, weeks, months, and years before it. Just like whatever you do in 18 months will be the direct consequence of everything you're doing right now. What you're doing right now will lead to that, right? Gilbert Burns did that, which is also the reason why it's unreasonable to say from our couch, where we've never really, faced the type of setbacks that a Tyron Woodley or any of these guys have hundreds of times in their life to become champion. They failed, they had flaws, they were weak, or they were humiliated, or they had something went bad, and then they figured out how to fix it, and they became champions. All Woodley has to do is do that again. Doesn't matter if he lost 27 rounds in a row. He knows how to do that. And it starts with admitting you have an issue, you're failing, something's wrong, you're not doing it right. And then what do I do about it? And you go back and you work on it. If your ego doesn't let you do that, and that's not ego with judgment, we all have an ego. And we need to find the humility to look for the flaw, admit that it's there, and do the work, the preparation, the learning, the study, the change, the trial and error, to have the process to make a change so you win. You don't concentrate on winning, you concentrate on improving and then performing. And that's what Gilbert Burns did. That's what winners do. That's what the winners 2 years from now are doing right now. And Woodley hasn't been doing that. And you hear these little things that he was arguing with his coach. Why? Because he doesn't want to admit there's an issue. Don't worry about it, man. I'm a champion. And that's not a judgment. We're not mad at him. We're not better than him. He's better than us. He has accomplished more than we have. But that same thing that drove him to accomplish things is driving him to willfully say, it'll be different next time. It will not be different next time unless you go back and address the issues. And that's what you do. And that's real. And it must be dealt with head on. And the Gilbert Burns of the world, he will be thrilled that he won. But if he really wants to be the champ, let's use Justin Gaethje as an example. Justin Gaethje was making lots of money, and he was the most exciting guy and very popular, and he had a lot of fans. But he would get knocked out sometimes at the highest level because of the nature of how he fought. His own nature, his own mind, his own ferocious intention. And he actually had to change himself because he didn't want to just be a guy who won 8 out of 10 fights and made millions of dollars and people loved him. He wanted to be the champion of the world. So he went back and he changed himself. So Gilbert Burns has done that to now, and he'll have to continue to do that. If you want to beat Usman, if you lose, do you go, well, I lost, I tried, I guess that's it. I'm not going to ever accomplish my goals. No, you go back and you improve. And you can do it at any stage. Doesn't matter if Woodley's 39 and he's lost 10 rounds in a row. He can go back and he can do that. But he has to do it head on, and it will be painful. It will be emotional labor. But that's what we do. That's what we all got to do, right? If I look tired, it's because I am. I am very fortunate. I've been doing my work for Bellator almost every day. Bare knuckle boxing in England. TSN in Canada covering the UFC. Got to do that tonight. It was super fun. So I've been busy, but I'm learning a lot. But thank you for joining me. Just a little wrap up, kind of clear my head and focus on the things I'm really interested in after focusing on, what we saw and where it is and what it means in the short term. Where do we go from there? There's some good questions. Sadly, my vision is not good enough with my small screen here to be able to see them, but I'll get that fixed by the time I'm back here next week. Thank you guys again. It's a privilege to have people to be able to mind dump before going to bed. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this, or please consider sharing it. A lot of people, new people on my YouTube channel, I'm very, very grateful. And if you want a shirt that says Bink, shoprobinblack.com. I have new 1-minute breakdowns up next week on my Instagram, @RobinBlack Martial Arts. Much love, guys. I appreciate you a lot. Black out.